Welcome. This video recording will be about scaling your accounting professional exams. So huge congratulations to those who have recently passed their ICANN exams, or those who are writing other accounting exams and they've passed, or they're still in the process. They've passed a couple of papers, some papers still to go and all of that. So congratulations. And I mean, before I deep down into all of the things I need to talk about, I think one of the things that you need to understand, because you need to put everything into perspective, especially for those who did not pass their exams. One of the things you need to put into perspective is this: that an attempt is a win. That you have attempted the exam is a win on its own. Imagine you going into the exam the next time. You're not going green. You're going from the place of learning, from knowledge, from, you're pretty much going there knowing that you have done it before. So you know what to expect at the minimum. That's a win, and that is one of the things you would encounter in the process. So with that, having that at the back of my mind, I'm going to say to you still congratulations, because you're not starting from ground zero, right? You're starting from a place of knowledge. And so well done on the attempt, and well done that you've put in the hours and the effort. Even though the result is not what you would have liked to see, it is still an attempt and it is still a win. Now, that being said, why did you fail the last exam? I'll just be honest with you. Especially when it comes to like the ICANN exam or the ACCA or any professional accounting related or finance related professional exams, the reason why you did not pass the exam is because you have not met the cutoff. Is because the knowledge you have as at the time you took the exam is not enough to justify to your examiners that you're ready to take on the next stage or to receive the charter. It is as simple as that. That's my understanding. You have failed the exam not because you're not good enough, or not because you are not a good accountant or a finance person. If you're already working, you have failed the exam because your knowledge and how you have demonstrated it through your exams have not shown or proven to the examiners that you have the requisite knowledge to be awarded the charter or to move to the next level. It's as simple as that. There is no, don't overthink it. Don't think that, oh, I'm not a good professional or because I failed an exam. No, an exam is just an event. It's just one sitting. You're sitting, you're writing the exam. If you have enough knowledge, you scale through to the next stage, or you qualify. So don't overthink it. Pretty much, I think that's all I'm saying. Don't overthink it. It's just at the time you took the exam, the examiner would have wanted you to know more. Now, this video is to address what you need to do better. Now, I'm not going to tell you things that you don't already know. I'm going to say the same things you know to do. I'm just going to say you need to try to do them to be able to ace the exam the next time. Okay? So, I think basically, for you to pass your exams, I don't know when you started the last time. I'm not sure the time frame you've given to yourself. But for each exam, at the minimum, there will be a period of about, it depends, maybe 6 months between when you've written this one. So for instance, I don't know, honestly, I've lost a connection, but usually there'll be like a period of like 6 months. In that 6 months, it is expected that 6 months will be enough for you to prepare for the next attempt. Okay, so all I'm driving at is this: you may not need all the 6 months. You may just need 4 months. Some people may just need 3 months. Some people 2 months, and they will ace their exams. Now, you need to come to a reasonable time frame for yourself, given your personal circumstances. So in my circumstance, I've got exams too I need to write, and I failed the exam very well. I've failed the exam. I don't believe that there's one exam that I've written. Maybe some stages of exam I've written them once, but usually, given my personal circumstances, I failed the exams. So I know I'm talking to you from the place of knowledge. Now, you need to start early. So you need to determine what early means for you. Some people, early means 2 months before the exam. Some people 4 months before the exams. Some people 3 months before. So you need to determine what early means for you. In my case, I've got 2 young kids below the age of 6 that I need to tend to. I've got a young family. I've got my job that is really demanding. I've got the mentoring program that I do that you know of and you're listening to me through it. And several other commitments, my extended family and all of that. So I've got all of that coupled with the professional exams that I am writing. So I know that in my situation, if others are preparing for an exam in 4 months, I probably need 2 or 3 extra months. So what is your own circumstance? Determine what early means for you and start early. So in the talking about starting early, I'll chip this in. The only way you can take accountability and really start early is by you having a proper timetable of the things you want to get through. Create a timetable for yourself and say, in month 1 I'll get through this and this and that, and in month 2 I'll get through this and this and that, and in month 3 I'll get through all of that. Okay, so please do start early. That would be really important for you. Now, I think the other thing I would say to you is for you to know the exams you want to write. And by knowing, I mean understand the level of difficulty of the exam. Talk to people who have written the exams before. Ask them what they did differently, especially people who have failed the exams before. Ask them what they did to pass the exam. I remember when I wrote my CFA level 2 exams, I failed a couple of times, and at the time when I passed, I remember having a candid conversation with someone who passed the exam. The person even passed once, and I asked them and I said, what did you do to pass this exam? And they told me one thing. They told me there is this particular provider, tuition provider, that what this person just did was to make sure that other than covering the content, they covered every single question that was available by that provider. And the provider had like series of questions that was up to like 800 questions. And this person told me that if I can know 800 concepts, if you wake me up in the night and I can answer 800 word of concepts, there is no other question that the CFA Institute would ask that they would not be able to, there's no question they want to ask that would be out of those 800 concepts, basically. So they went the route of, I want to master these 800 concepts and I should have a fair chance at passing this exam. And that was what I did. And I aced it in that particular time. I did. So know your exam, know the level of difficulty of the exam, and the only way you can know, just like for instance, if you've got an exam, say audit and assurance is one of the exams you need to pass. Don't just say, okay, is audit well? Probably you are even an auditor, like it is what it is. No, that's not it. You need to understand what is required of you, how many questions you'll be required to answer, how many marks will make a fail or a pass. You need to know all of those things. What's the structure of the exam? All of those things you need to know ahead of time. Some people think they know, but they don't. Some people don't even know that probably there are some required questions and there are some optional questions. So you need to know your exams in and out. Now, if you failed an exam before and you're coming in to write the exam again, you must have done well in some of those papers, especially if you did multiple papers. You must have known some of those, quote and unquote, you must have known what you scored, basically, especially if they give you your score. You must have known what you scored. And it may be the case of, if you're not giving your scores, you would know your areas of deficiency. So for me, for instance, in the CFA program, I've always struggled with derivatives. I know because that is my area of deficiency, when I am trying to prepare again for that exam, that needs to be targeted. So if you know your areas of weaknesses, target those areas. Now I'm going to caveat this by saying, don't underestimate any paper you're writing. I remember there are some papers then while I was even writing I think there was this ethics paper, like we used to write in days of ATS. I don't know if it's still there now. It would be like, well, or communications, it's just English, or it's just ethics. Don't underestimate any paper. A simple, easy to pass paper can knock you off. So don't underestimate any paper and just leave it. Maybe a week before the exam, you now quickly pick it and say, oh, what's going on here? So know your weaknesses. However, don't underestimate any other paper. Now, this one is really good. Accountability. If you find 1, 2, 3, 4 people writing the same exams that are really invested in passing, please join them. It is important that you find a study group and you join them. There are several study groups you can join. I mean, it depends on the kind of exams that you're writing. You can also form one and then expect others to join you on your way. So if you find people writing, so for instance, even in the mentees orb, there will be people trying to write the same exam that you're writing. If you identify people who are bent on passing and you stick with them, you'll probably pass. I remember when I passed my CFA level 2 exam, I was going to the CFA library then, and I had a couple of friends who were bent on passing their exams. Like, you need to see how these people, like, they are not joking. Like, they are not joking. They resume in the library before 8 a.m. or 8 a.m., 9 a.m. and they're there up until 9 p.m. every single day during their leave to write the exam. So if you're in the midst of people like this, I'm not saying that is equal to pass, but I'm saying that it will continue to ginger you to read for your exams and eventually pass it. So if you do have a group like that, please stick with that group and make sure that you get the utmost benefit. One lady who qualified as a CFA chapter holder was saying one of the things she did. She said there is a group that she joined. That group, just because, I mean, everybody writing, most people writing that exam are working class people, and a lot of people are not just working class, they're like mid-management level, so nobody has time. Honestly, said that particular group, they start reading every day between 4 a.m. and about 6 or 7 a.m. every day for months before the exam. Can you beat that? 4 a.m. in Lagos. So I don't know if they do it physically or online or whatever. Everybody knows to wake up at 4 a.m. to study. Basically, that's it. It can't even be physical. I don't think it's physical. So everybody knows you are in a group where you wake up at, and I mean, that exam, if you wake up 4 a.m., yes, it is worth it. So wake up 4 a.m., read until 7, however, whatever that means for you, or 6, whatever that means for you. Just make sure that you are somewhere studying, or you are in the process, or you are in that atmosphere between 4 a.m. and whatever. And then she said, I think they do evenings as well. So a couple of hours in the morning, a couple of hours in the evening. There is no way you're not going to have a fair chance at passing. If you notice, I didn't say there is no way you're not going to pass. I said there's no way you're not going to have a fair chance at passing if you instill that discipline. Now, you need to keep practicing. Now, practice is one of the most important points I'm going to say to you. Some people just read the text. So there is a curriculum that your association, or let's say ICANN, would have given to you. So there is a curriculum. And I'm still going to talk about the curriculum, but I'm still going to come back to it. They would have given you a curriculum, and which you would read through, and you would get a lot of practice questions, either from the association. So there will be like end of chapter sort of questions. There will be some practice questions, probably mock exams. There will be all of those questions. Now, there will be tuition providers who would also come up with their own sort of questions for you to for you to practice. Now, this is what I would say to you. If you get a chance at having a question, if you get questions, even if they're up to 300, as long as a question goes through your hands, practice all the questions before you appear for the exam. It sounds weird, but you need to do it. Every single question you come across, you need to get through them. In fact, at the point where you're running out of time, I remember some things I used to do then. If I probably have run out of time and I'm like, oh, I've just gotten this new set of materials, or someone has just said, oh, I've got this materials, do you want to have a look and whatever, I can just read the solution just to, remind myself of some concepts. As long as you've got those questions, please do practice them. So don't leave practice as something that some people don't actually get to do a lot of practice questions and they pass. So everything I'm saying is really relative. You need to pick the one that is important for you. But I'm saying, if you've failed an exam before, practice is important. I remember, I think the last paper I wrote before I qualified as a chartered accountant 12 solid years ago was SFM. Now, SFM, I think, I remember one of the things I did then was just to practice. I did a lot of questions. I'm like, there is no way I will do all of these questions and one of it will not come out. Like, a couple will come out. I remember looking at one equity valuation question. I can remember that it is equity valuation question. Came out in the exam. I'd revised that question. In fact, that morning, as I was trying to prepare to go to have my bath and prepare to go, somebody just said, look at this question. And I just looked at it. I did not really rehearse the question or practice or write down. I just looked at the question, looked at the solution. And it just reminded me, because I've done it before, just reminded me, that was question number one. I remember very well. So every question you come across, please do practice. Now I'll scale back a bit and go back to the curriculum issue. You need to read the curriculum. There are some curriculum that are very annoying. You're like, how am I going? Sometimes when they give you your books, they are so big. Like, what are they thinking? Like, I'm a working professional. How do they expect me to go through all of this? If you've got the grace to go through it, you need to. Now, what I would advise is, just because a lot of us are busy professionals, is this: look at those ones that you know that those are your weak areas. I mean, you've done different levels of the exam, and there are some recurring papers, maybe like the introductory level and the application level or something. So you know where your weak points are. If I mean, for instance, if you ask me, my weak point is derivatives. Personally, I know. So I know to read that one. All those pain areas, read the curriculum, then do the practice. There are some of them that maybe you've done similar exams before, you feel, and then probably that's what you're even doing at work. So you may have a skim through the curriculum. Just make sure you're doing all of the examples and all of the end of chapter questions and all of that. Okay. Now I'm going to talk about investment. If you know you need extra help, invest in it. A couple of years from now, you would have forgotten you need that investment. I personally don't hold myself back when it comes to investing in exams I want to write. I'll pay a couple of quid to ensure that I get the best support that I can get, because I am extremely busy and I don't want to suffer while trying to get a certification. I don't want to really die trying to get that certification. So if Kaplan is asking for a particular amount, I know it can be very expensive. I would rather drop the money and make sure that I skill and pass the exam. Have I bought materials that I then failed I failed the exams? I've bought all sorts of buying and I failed. But that is not, because a time will come when I will pass, and that will be it. And I don't remember making those investments. So don't just if you need support, you need to get through things quite quickly. You're a busy professional. Invest in it. Invest in those materials and use them. A lot of people will buy materials but do not use it. So that's a different issue. So you buy and then you use. You make sure you use it and then you get through it. Okay. There is this practical tip I want to share with you. every single material you get, make sure that they're accessible on your phone. So some people do have, so it depends on what you've got. So some people do have like the iPad, you've got a phone with a big screen, then your laptop. So people, all their materials are on their laptop, such that if they are not in a sitting position to open a laptop, they cannot read. Now you'll be wasting a lot of time, because as a busy professional, you need to take advantage of different things like a wait time. So sometimes, personally, I take my kids to the park or to a play center where they play, and I scroll through my phone reading a PDF of material. Funny enough, it may not even be for exam, maybe for work. I just want to read a paper, or I want to read an in-brief, or I want to read something. I'll just sit down there and scroll through it. That time is reading time. So it has added to the number of hours or minutes that you've read. So when you're trying to wait for a bus, or someone is driving you home, you're in traffic, you see that traffic time, you make sure you've got like an iPad or a phone where you've got your materials. When you just scroll, just plug in your ears. I listen to binaural beats or focus music. I block out the noise and I scroll through. I may not be able to do all of those, but if it just requires curriculum reading, you see all those concepts, they'll begin to make sense. So take advantage of all of those waiting times. Sometimes even when you go out with friends or whatever, and there is a waiting time, maybe you guys are not doing anything, or you're just stuck in a place, if you've got your materials on your phone, you can use it. Now, always, like I've said this before, but I'm going to repeat it again, review what you did not do well the last time, especially if you've got scores. See where you went wrong and make sure that you come back to it. Look at those areas, your pain points, invest time and effort in your pain points, and come out well from it. Now, I'm going to also talk about at work. You can also use some time, especially your lunch break. Go and check your what's it called, your offer letter. Is your lunch break paid for? Most organizations do not pay for your lunch break. So your lunch break is your time to do whatever you want with it. An hour every day times 5 is 5 hours. So if you wanted to use your lunch break to study, that will be effective. Now, I'm not saying go and bring your book and put it on your desk, because even some employers who employed you and said your lunch break is not paid for, it is your time. They don't understand what they wrote in your contract letter. So when you bring your book outside during work, they don't find it funny, and you can't start explaining yourself. That's the importance of the phone. If you've got your stuff on your phone or whatever, when you go to lunch, plug in your ears and scroll through your material. Okay, so, and that will be really helpful for you. Now, another thing is set your boundaries and stick to it. When you've got exams in the next 4 months, 3 months, 2 months, that is not the time to overdo things that are not exam related. You must understand the importance of your time. The best use of your time is by apportioning it appropriately, depending on what is important. Make sense? So that's not the time when I'm a strong preacher of volunteer at work, but when you've got exams, that's not the time to be overdoing things that are not exam related, especially a couple of months down to your exam. That's when you need to scale back and say, okay, what is important in the next 3 months? What is important in the next 2 months for me is my ICANN exam. If I pass this ICANN exam, every other doors begin to unlock. So you need to look at the bigger picture. So in these 2 months, I'm not doing anything over the board social. I'm just concentrating and focusing on this exam. Okay, so set your boundaries. Some people that's not the time to fix in meetings. So you meet with friends and family, weekend in, weekend out, weekend in, weekend. No, that's not the time. Take those months, tell your people you're coming. You need to separate yourself and use that time to, really, once you've passed your exam, you've got the whole time to, meet up with friends and all of that. Sounds good. So back to work. Basically, you need to understand that you pass, especially those who work in firms where you can only fail your exam a couple of times. Priority is really key. Priority is really, really key. Now, part of it may be, especially if you have an understanding team, if your boss is your friend, true friend, and they understand you, sit with them and tell them, I've got this exam. Like, have that. If you work in a toxic environment, don't bother. But if you work in an environment where they really do appreciate you and they really talk to them, say, see, in the next 6 weeks, I've got my exam. I'm going to be working my normal hours, but I don't want to work a minute after my normal time. Once I'm back from my exam, I'll pick up on anything that is not done and, it's not time bound. I'll pick up on all of those. Have that conversation. They'll probably say, yes, that's okay. And once it is 5 o'clock, if 5 o'clock is your closing time, they know to release you to go and study. Okay. Then another thing I wanted to say is this. Now, sometimes you need to find a good study area. So look, if you study in your office, there is a chance that you are not assimilating. There is a chance. Some people do, but you need to, if your office is really nice, where, like, I remember when I was in PwC in Nigeria, very fantastic, very nice office. Like, I'm in that office every day. I wrote different kinds of exams then. Like, I was in the office every day, Saturday, Sunday, reading, studying, upping up on work, whatever it is. I was in the office. Very nice office, very nice office. But whenever I was doing anything that was not work related, I didn't sit on my floor. So I changed. So there are some other floors I could go to. Very nice, very, and I enjoyed it. So even if you want to read in your office, don't read on your desk, because there's a chance that your mind will be flipping up and down, thinking about work, thinking about things you should not be thinking about. But you need to find a place where, and some people is a library, so find if it's a library. Some people can read on their bed and pass, but if you are the type that if you lie on your bed, you will sleep, don't be in your house. In my case, I just up and, like, weekends, if I've got exams, I don't stay at home because my boy is all over me. So you need to find what works for you, an area where if I go, sometimes it's the coffee shop, and I try to mix it up. Sometimes I go to the office and I read. Sometimes I go to a coffee shop and I read. Sometimes I stay in the house and I read. It depends. So find what works for you and then stick to it. Hopefully, this will help you, this couple of tips, because you need to action it. So hopefully this couple of tips will help you to, have you ready for your next exam. Listen, in weeks before your exam, you need to prioritize and you need to make sure that you're pulling your weight. And I must talk about mindset before I finish this video. If you're not ready to pass an exam, you're not going to pass it. The starting point is your mindset. Your mind needs to be ready. That's the starting point, your mindset. So for you, you need to tell yourself, I am passing this exam. And you need to find something to tie it to, whether it's to make yourself proud, whether it's because it will open up opportunities for you, whether your parents will be extremely happy if you do pass. Tie something important that is higher to that goal in terms of how you value things. Tie it to it. And then, like, if I pass this exam, my dad will be over the money. If I pass this exam, my mom will be over, whatever it is. And then I wish you all the best in your next attempt, and I'll be here to celebrate with you. Thank you.